A very warm welcome to our founder, Kalpana Thakur, our speaker, CA Rohit Gupta, and to all our participants to our Friday Fleet session, episode 76 Key Drivers in Valuation for Fundraising. I would invite our founder, Kalpana Thakur, to take it forward.
Thank you so much, CA Jyoti Maru, for starting the session. A very warm welcome to all of you. And we are grateful for our today's esteemed speaker, CA Rohit Gupta ji, for accepting our invitation at such a short notice and gracing our platform for his knowledge, with his knowledge and wisdom. Today, before starting the session, I was just thinking about uh, how it happens when a client starts his business. So, Rohit, I'm into practice from the year 2019. And all of us being into practice or in industry will agree to the fact that the most crucial thing for the business, the lifeline of the business is the fund. The all discussion and the work is revolving around that. And we are the first point of contact for our client to solve this the requirement. I'll not speak much because I'm expecting a lot to hear from Rohit today. Um, Looking forward for our today's session, 76th episode. Um, and we were discussing this a couple of minutes back that even if we will impact one professional through our every session, it will be an impact that me and Poonam, a year back, Poonam, if you remember, that's what we have taken a motto to keep our journey going, irrespective of the numbers. It's the impact. Even if we will impact a single life, it is enough. So, with that, without taking much time, I would like to hand over back to our moderator for today's sessions, CA Jyoti Maru, for take the deliberation ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kalpana. Thank you for me to be the moderator for the session today. I would like to introduce CA Rohit Gupta. Rohit is a chartered accountant with over 14 years of experience across Big Four consulting, corporate finance, and startup leadership roles. His career has spanned diverse industries from mining and manufacturing to fintech and edtech, giving him a well-rounded perspective on how finance can be growth driver and not just a control function. After working with EY and Deloitte, he transitioned into industry roles where he led strategic finance, fundraising, compliance, and cross border operations. He has worked closely with founders, boards, and investors, building scalable financial systems, leading due diligence, raising capital, and navigating high growth environments. Today, he leads Ashwashan Advisors LLP, a consulting and investment banking firm that partners with early and growth stage companies on equity and debt fundraising, investors due diligence and monitoring, virtual CFO, and finance transformation. A very warm welcome, CA Rohit Gupta. Thank you for accepting our session for this episode 76. Over to you, Rohit Gupta.
Thank you, Kalpana and Jyoti for such a warm welcome, although I believe it was too much, right? But it's really my honor to be here, especially looking at the vision of the community to impact uh, women in chartered accountancy. So not only chartered accountants, I would say should be women in entrepreneurship. I would say, right? So thank you very much for warm welcome. So just a brief about the session and how we can structure it. So generally, whenever I'm taking the session, I don't believe it should be a one way interaction, right? Otherwise, session turns boring and more of a you know blah 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 kind of thing, right? Ki one person is speaking and others are just listening, right? So I would request each one of you to be as interactive as you can. So I don't want the session to be complete and then the question answer to come in, right? So let's get on a discussion mode. That is one thing which I generally request my um, you know what you say people to cooperate with. And the second is key, whenever you feel that you can value add in the session by providing any feedback or adding to the point, please do step in. Please do step in. Even I'm here to learn, and I'm also human, and I also don't know everything, right? So it is my experience and skill which I've gained over years. Jyoti, if you're speaking something, I think you're on mute. Jyoti, if you're speaking something, you're on mute. Uh,
Yes, I am on mute, I guess.
yeah, you are on mute. Okay, so let's start the session. So the topic for today's session is uh, key drivers in valuation of a company, right? So can I ask one question? How many of you are dealing with startups or working with startups at present? No one? So everyone is working with big companies? Okay, Kalpana, you. Okay,
No, we are working with the
Are working.
startups.
okay.
Yes.
So Poonam, Kalpana, you guys are working with startups, right? And what is the biggest challenge which a startup has?
Cash flow,
Cash flow, yes. What else? Anything else?
compliance management also they find little difficult.
Okay. Any qualitative factor? Okay.
Uh,
So don't you think that when a startup is being, started, right? The biggest challenge for them is skill, to get skilled people on board, right? So, and आप लोगों ने देखा होगा, you must have seen that people who are skilled enough, maybe, from, trained from a great institution, say IIT, IIMs, or, maybe some other good institutions, they have the capacity to raise funds much easier, or getting the company valued at a much higher, value than others, right? So what does it speak of? Does it say anything? Does it imply anything? Does it proves anything? Any views?
can you repeat your question, Rohit?
So when we look at the startups, right, who has the founders who are from a very good educational background, they tend to raise more capital at a very good valuation rather than other mediocre average students, or maybe students from the average institutes. So is there any particular reason that these people are able to raise more at a more value, or more easily?
Skill
Skill.
and the kind of knowledge they have gained, that is also a factor, a driving factor in that.
Right. So I think it's a mixture of both the things, right? So one is the skill they develop in those posh institutes, number one. And other is people have confidence that if a person is intelligent enough to get into this institutes, he would be intelligent enough to build a business. So this is a general perception, although it might not be true in a lot of cases, right? But there are some factors which drives those things in the minds of an investor. So without wasting further time, I'll just present my screen and share a presentation which we have prepared for this session. I hope everyone is able to see this.
Yes, it is visible.
Is visible, right? Okay.
Yeah. Only if you can do it in slideshow view.
I think it's in slideshow view only. No. Okay. Just a second.
And that option I think will work. Hide sidebar. Huh, now it is perfect.
Now? Okay. Okay. So this entire presentation will, throw some light on the fundraising journey, how valuation is critical in the aspect of fundraising journey, how equity given by the founders is directly influenced by valuation, how the deals are perceived by investors, what is the reality of, a company's growth story with respect to its valuation, and, we'll try to demystify a few of the valuation drivers which affects the overall growth of the company. Now, when we talk about valuation, as I started the session, I asked a very basic question that what is the biggest problem of the startups, right? So it's the skills, right? Then I spoke about the education of the founders, the education of the key resource in the company, right? So those are qualitative factors. So when I say qualitative factor, it means कि कंपनी ने अभी तक रेवेन्यू बनाना चालू नहीं किया तो कोई आपको फंड क्यों करेगा, right? Why should I fund you when you don't have any revenue or you don't have a growth plan? So there comes the qualitative drivers, right, which focus on the inherent qualities of the team, brand strength, and defensibility against competition. Next comes the quantitative factors, which basically includes the financial matrices, revenue, profit margin, the runway, the funds they have raised. कि कंपनी आज अपने फाइनेंशियल बलबूते पे कितना ग्रो कर सकती है. देन वी हैव मार्केट बेस्ड ड्राइवर्स, राइट. सो मार्केट बेस्ड ड्राइवर्स इज लाइक सबने जिप्टो पे पैसे डाले मैं भी डालूंगा. सो दिस इज मार्केट बेस्ड ड्राइवर्स कि how the market is perceiving that particular company or a company particular business or the particular sector. Next is future potential कि आज लेंस का 70,000 करोड़ की वैल्यूएशन पे लिस्ट हुआ है फिर भी उसको 28 टाइम्स का ओवर सब्सक्रिप्शन मिला है, राइट. सो maybe people are betting on the future potential of the business and thus higher valuation. So these are the topics we would be covering now. Let's talk about qualitative factors. So qualitative factors में क्या आ जाता है. एक आती है फाउंडिंग टीम जहाँ पे इन्वेस्टर बोलते हैं कि हम फाउंडर्स को बैक करते हैं, हम लोग बिजनेस से मतलब नहीं है. बिजनेस से मतलब तब होता है जब उसके की मेट्रिक्स से जाता है और क्वांटिटेटिव और क्वालिटेटिव दोनों को मिक्स करके देखना पड़ता है. बट व्हाट हैपेंस, हाउ अ बिजनेस इज वैल्यूड एट अ जीरो रेवेन्यू, right, when they don't have any numbers. They are not valued only merely because on the basis of the projections, but they are measured on the basis of the quality of the founders and the team, कि जो टीम वो बना रही है उसमें दम है कि नहीं ये बनाने का. Next is the product market fit, right? So suppose you build a product which the market has accepted कि हाँ ये हम यूज़ करेंगे, even at free और फ्री में ही उसको दिया जा रहा है. बट यूज़र उसमें आ रहे हैं, उसमें उसमें यूज़र बढ़ रहे हैं, यूज़र का फीडबैक इज गुड, यूज़र आर रेडी टू पे अ प्राइस इफ इट्स लॉन्च ऑन फुल फ्लेजेड मॉडल. तो दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल अ प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट. सो अगर प्रोडक्ट मार्केट फिट आ गया इवन एट जीरो रेवेन्यू, राइट, देन यू नो इट गिव्स यू अ गुड वैल्यूएशन. नेक्स्ट इज द ब्रांड क्रेडिबिलिटी. सो आज आप when you are launching a product in the market and it is picking up the share of the market very quickly, that means your brand is building, right? So brand again in CA also we call brand as an intangible asset, right? So if the brand value is growing, right, your valuation is tend to increase. Next comes the defensibility. So defensibility का मतलब हो गया कि the product which you are launching or the business which you are launching in the market is can be done by some other person, right? तो अगर वैसा कुछ होता है कि a startup selling say potatoes can be sold by 1,000 other people, right? But if a startup is coming up with an IP that I've developed a drug which can cure cancer and I have an IP to it, I have a patent to it, then the market entry, the regulatory barriers, the technology cost will be very high, and hence the value of the IP will be much higher, which will shoot up the valuation of the company as well, right? So any questions till now? I hope everyone is there, right?
Any questions from the participants? Rohit, you can go ahead.
Okay. Now, apart from qualitative, we have quantitative drivers as well. So quantitative drivers comes when you look at a revenue generating company, right? So like your recurring revenue, valuable than one-time sales, right? You're making a recurring revenue from contracts. You have high margins. Uh, your company has raised enough capital and they have enough runway even after spending a lot on the manpower and other fixed cost. You have a strong LTV to CAC ratio. Now, LTV is like lifetime value of the customers, right? And CAC is customer acquisition cost. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this terminology. So let me just explain a little bit on this. So lifetime value means ki how much are the current customers going to pay you in the future years, and customer acquisition cost is the cost spent on the marketing and sales to acquire one customer, right? So if your lifetime value of the customer you have acquired by spending CAC is more than your CAC, right, that means you will be building a प्रॉफिटेबल बिजनेस. आपने कस्टमर एक्वायर करने पे खर्चा किया 10,000, बट वो आपको ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ 3 ईयर से 50,000 का रेवेन्यू देगा. दैट मीन्स योर एलटीवी टू कैक रेशियो इज फाइव टाइम्स. So which shows a good scalable customer economics. Then your contribution margin per customer or the payback period, right? So again, if your contribution margin are good, your revenue and then your cost of sales is giving you a positive contribution, then obviously your valuation would be better. Then we have market-based drivers, right? So now I spoke that market-based driver का मतलब क्या हो गया कि जेप्टो में मोतीलाल ओसवाल पैसे डाल रहा है तो मैं भी डाल देता हूँ, राइट? सो दिस इज मार्केट बेस्ड ड्राइवर्स वेयर इन द वैल्यूएशन ऑफ द मार्केट, वैल्यूएशन ऑफ द कंपनी और द स्टार्टअप इज डिसाइडेड by the market trends, right? Like nowadays, ESG, climate tech, AI, and fintech are enjoying premium multiples. Why? Because people think that in the next 5 to 10 years, these are the sectors which will rule. Then the comparables, right? Ki what are the similar startups are valued at, right? And the exit potential. Ki आज suppose today I'm developing something in AI, right? And I see that after 3 4 years, say OpenAI will come and acquire it, right? I'm just speculating. So they have the exit potential that active M&A in the sector or IPO could be giving higher valuations. Any questions till now? Any suggestions? Any questions? Any views? Nothing. Okay, let's move ahead. Now, apart from quantitative and market drivers, then we have future potential drivers, right? So future potential drivers means the expectation on the performance of the future, performance of the startup or business in future, right? So that comes to scalability. Can the business grow 5 to 10x without proportionate increase in cost? Whether the business can expand to multiple geographies, they can enter new markets or verticals. Will they have long-term contracts or partnership with signed clients? How the product roadmap looks like, introduction of new SKUs, APIs or features. When I say introduction of new SKUs, it would mean, so we can take example of Mama. So Mama, when it started with baby products, right? But going forward, they forayed into beauty products and a lot of other products as well. तो उन्होंने नए प्रोडक्ट्स को इनोवेट करते रहे, नए प्रोडक्ट्स को मार्केट में लाते रहे, जिसकी वजह से उनकी सेल्स बढ़ी आज, ठीक है, उनकी वैल्यूएशन भी बढ़ी है ना, देयर आईपीओ कंपनी, right? And next is the path to profitability. You cannot continue to make losses for the foreseeable futures, right? So investors are not giving you money to make losses for perennial years. They are giving you money to grow your business, right? So it could be acquisition of market share, it could be acquisition of long-term contracts, or it could be to even increase lower your fixed cost as well, right, through automations or all those things. So path to profitability has to be there if you are if you want to get into a good valuation. Now, these are the few common valuation method which are generally used by investors. One is the venture capital method, right? So venture capital method is not actually a method which is not, it's not a financial method, which is it's a method wherein the venture capitalists, based on the performance of the business and the sector, they assign a certain multiple on your revenue or or your business, right? So it doesn't generally have a basis of calculation, but it's just called venture capital method. That is why it's called venture capital method. So they don't have a defined set of rules कि इस रूल के हिसाब से वैल्यूशन निकालते हैं. Next is the scorecard method, wherein the VCs or the investors value compare startups to average benchmarks across the matrices. As for example, आज समझ लो कोई FMCG company है, उसका cost of production से for a particular cream is 10 rupees per gram, और वही कोई दूसरी कंपनी जो है इस इंडस्ट्री में इज डूइंग एट से 9 rupees, राइट? सो उसके हिसाब से एडजस्टमेंट करके ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द की मैट्रिसेस दे वैल्यू योर कंपनी. Then we have discounted cash flow method. This is something which we have been studying from BCom, right? Discounted cash flow method. So wherein the company is already into business for 4-5 years, and they have steady revenue, profit, EBITDA, and everything, then discounted cash flow method can be used for late stage startups. Then we have comparable multiples. So comparable multiples would mean there's a similar company which is already listed in the market, and and I'm starting up with a similar kind of startup with some steady revenue, and the listed company in the market trades at say 17 times book value or 17 times say EBITDA, right? So my company will be valued on a similar comparable multiple, right? So multiple could be of anything. It could be a revenue multiple, it could be a EBITDA multiple, it could be price multiple, whatever. I mean, right? So there could be multiple multiples, but the comparable multiple is used for valuation.
Yeah, so yeah, I have one question, sir.
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, see, Liner, you're talking about the future projection, but I have seen that companies, while taking a valuation, giving some projections on a new assumption, see the growth rate percentage, they give us a percentile. This is the turnover we will achieve after,
Mm.
let's say, 3 to 5 years. But I have seen in my that majority cases, their numbers are not achieved because of the XYZ reasons.
Mm.
So we have done a valuation today that some investor putting the money today,
Mm.
especially in a startup or a growing company, anything, but doing on a valuation today. And after 3 to 5 years, we've seen that that numbers are not achievable. The
Mm.
person who has invested, his money, naturally, he cannot getting a desired return on this investment.
Mm.
So how to validate that numbers, because there is no criteria. What the promoter companies business is saying the numbers, to how much to best judge the figures, because these are numbers basically. On the paper we have done the valuation, but the different methodologies were followed.
See, there are multiple very good questions, I would say. I mean, because this is a question which I get in almost in every session, right? Whenever I'm taking a session on this topic, this is a very valid question, right? कि वैल्यूएशन तो कर दी, बट उसका सामने तो धंधा चल ही नहीं रहा है, तो बिजनेस चल ही नहीं रहा है, वो 2-3 साल के बाद तो बिजनेस ही ठप है. 100 करोड़ का प्रोजेक्शन है, अब 10 करोड़ ही अचीव कर रहा है. Correct. So generally what happens, when you are using discounted cash flow, it's generally used for companies which are already there in the market for 5-6 years, or are project based, or manufacturing companies, or those kind of companies wherein कि इतना हम अचीव कर सकते हैं with this kind of growth in the past 5 years, right? For a newer company which wants to value his company only on the basis of the projected numbers, right? तो उस पर कोई भी वैल्यूएशन मेथड आप लगा लो, ठीक है, वो आप असाइन नहीं कर सकते ऑन एनी ऑफ द क्वांटिटेटिव फैक्टर. यू कैनॉट वैल्यू अ कंपनी which doesn't have revenue, and the company which has revenue, and when they are saying कि ये 20% से ग्रो होगा, तो there should be assumptions, right? So there are a lot of assumptions which needs to be proved by the founder or the management team कि this assumptions which we are taking are justified, right? Say as for example, you are in discussion, say you are working in a mining company, right? Say your company is into mining, right? And you already have 100 crore turnover, and you are in talks with Coal India for the next 20 years का एक MDO contract मिलेगा, एक large 20 years का रहेगा, which will give you 2000 crore revenue over a period of 20 years, right? So now you can very well take an example or mention the assumption that we have signed an LOI with Coal India, which if granted to me will give this kind of revenue, right? And you can mention that we are at late stage, we are at contract signing stage, or even the contract has been signed, the contract will be awarded, right? So these kind of assumptions are solid assumptions which can turn positive, right? So assumptions are assumptions, मतलब वो खराब भी हो सकता है ना, तो वो आपको कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं मिला तो आपको वो रेवेन्यू नहीं मिलेगा। बट अगेन इट्स अप टू द इन्वेस्टर टू डिसाइड कि वेदर वही कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे रहेगा कि वैसे और मल्टीपल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आपको मिल सकते हैं, based on your skill, based on your credentials which you made in the past 5 years, right? As say manufacturing company है, say one manufacturing company is doing say revenue of say 100 crores, okay, now they want the next year revenue to be 200 crores, but for that they need to make 20 crore का say capex। तो उस कैपेक्स से क्या होगा, उनकी कैपेसिटी इंक्रीज होगी, उस कैपेसिटी इंक्रीज होगी तो उनको और ऑर्डर्स आएंगे, तो और ऑर्डर्स आएंगे तो उनका रेवेन्यू भी बढ़ेगा, प्रॉफिट भी बढ़ेगा, right? So these are very valid assumptions, right? But unlike if you are say working in a AI, working for a AI startup, ठीक है, जिसका 10-12 हज़ार रुपये का अभी रेवेन्यू है, अभी स्टार्ट किया है, वो बोल रहा है मैं अगले साल 15 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू करूंगा, उसके अगले साल मैं 50 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू करूंगा, उसके बाद मैं 500 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू करूंगा, राइट? सो ऑन व्हाट assumptions कि मेरे यूजर्स इतने ग्रो करेंगे ओवर पीरियड, वो ये एक्स्ट्रा, नाउ देन दैट्स नॉट assumptions, that those are extrapolation. So you started the business for 2 months, in 2 months you got 10,000 users, now he's adding 10,000 users every 15 days, right? तो उसको एक्स्ट्रापोलेट करके इज गेटिंग दैट रेवेन्यू कि 10,000 बंदे मेरे को इतना 1 लाख का रेवेन्यू दे रहे हैं, तो कल 5 लाख का मेरा अगर यूजर्स रहेंगे उतना रेवेन्यू देंगे, राइट? सो दैट्स अ वेरी वेरी व्हाट यू से purely numerical way of doing simulations, right? तो उस केस में वैल्यूएशन विल बी डिसाइडेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ कि फाउंडर्स का क्या क्रेडेंशियल्स है और क्या है, राइट? सो आई थिंक मनीष जी, डज इट आंसर योर क्वेश्चन और?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. There's a small point in this. Your point, what you're saying is very right. I agree with you. Small point, what I've seen that top line, the top line, there's somewhere to show the number they are doing the top line, but in the bottom line, profitability is very badly affected. Majority cases, the number with the bottom line for profitability they're showing. Majority cases, it is not met in majority cases, and. And investors, we all trust any putting the money on the face value of the promoters, just putting the money, investing the money, and after a particular period, and they know the feedback key, they are XYZ reason profitability is not achieved, resulting in a dip in the valuation of the amount they invested. Which so how to mitigate, how to control that? How, matlab, yeah, what kind of additional checks we can ensure that at least what are the not the other variation in the profitability? Can you check in that particular time in profitability?
So there are two to three types of major business in in the world, right? One will be commodity driven business, wherein you have some tangible commodity which you're trying to sell, either through a trading model or through a manufacturing model. And the other will be a services model, right? So you're giving any kind of service, right? Consulting service दे रहे हो आप, या फिर सॉफ्टवेयर सर्विस दे रहे हो, या कोई सॉफ्टवेयर बेच रहे हो, right? And in both the businesses there will be one thing common, which will be market, what you say, uh, attending the number of users, right? So if you're working in a B2C market, the valuation driver will be different. If you're working in a B2B market, the valuation driver will be different. So if you're working in a manufacturing setup, you cannot sustain losses for long, right? Because it's a capital heavy intensive industry, right? So आप अगर profit नहीं बनाओगे तो आप survive नहीं करोगे, right? So and it can be scaled with time, correct? तो वहाँ पे वैल्यूएशन आपका हमेशा मल्टीपल कम रहेगा, बट दे विल लुक इनटू मोर प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी, आप कितने जल्दी प्रॉफिटेबल टर्न कर सकते हो। बट इफ यू आर वर्किंग इन अ सॉफ्टवेयर काइंड ऑफ इंडस्ट्री, राइट, देयर the acquisition of users is more important and the long term perspective is very important, because सॉफ्टवेयर में क्या होता है, सर्विसेज में क्या होता है, स्केल बहुत रैपिड होता है, राइट? भले इनिशियली टाइम यूजर्स को आने में टाइम लगे, बट व्हेन इट स्केल्स इट गिव्स यू पेरेनियल रेवेन्यू, राइट? बिकॉज इट्स अ B2B बिजनेस। Manish, are you still there or?
Yeah, got it. I understand. Yeah, I understanding your point.
उसमें क्या होता है कि अब इन्वेस्टर जो न्यू एज इन्वेस्टर्स है ना, तो दे आर फोकसिंग मोर ऑन मार्केट बिल्डिंग रादर देन प्रॉफिट मेकिंग, ठीक है? बट अब वो ट्रेंड भी चेंज हो गया है, अब नाउ इन्वेस्टर्स आर लुकिंग मोर इनटू मोर प्रॉफिटेबल बिजनेसेस और मोर प्रॉफिटेबल एरियाज, राइट। तो अब वो जमाना भी गया कि अब वो कुछ भी लेके आओ आइडिया और फंडिंग मिल जाएगा। तो वी आर सीइंग दोस।
तो सर आज के डेट में फॉर दिस ई-commerce kind of sectors, what should be the approach for us as a chartered accountant for deciding the valuations? Should it be based on customer conversion, or should it be based on the profitability? Because आज की डेट में भी there is a huge gap between customer acquisition and profitability.
कि न्यू एज बिजनेस को आप कभी भी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी के ऊपर आप वैल्यू नहीं कर सकते हो।
Exactly.
क्या है, वो हो ही नहीं सकता है। नहीं तो फिर आप कोई भी कंपनी को जीरो से ऊपर वैल्यूशन नहीं दे पाओगे, जीरो बटा सन्नाटा ही रहेगा वो। तो
So
आपको
that
सिर्फ
that
आपके
has to be based on user acceptance.
करेक्ट यू है, इट कैन बी बेस्ड ऑन यूजर एक्सेप्टेंस, इट कैन बी बेस्ड ऑन कंपेरेबल्स। कि आज समझ लो ई कॉमर्स में अगर आप अमेजन को देख सकते हो या फ्लिपकार्ट को देख सकते हो, उसका मल्टीपल आप एक असाइन कर सकते हो। कि समझ लो यार ई कॉमर्स स्टार्टअप कल जाके अमेजन बन गया
Okay. Hmm.
है, तो अमेजन किस रेवेन्यू पे बनेगा या फिर किस इन्फ्लेक्शन पॉइंट पे वो अमेजन बनेगा। करेक्ट। और उसको अगर मैं
Okay.
आज के दिन टर्म्स में देखता
Although
हूँ,
even that is very difficult to decide.
इट इज वेरी
And
डिफिकल्ट।
apart from that, so apart from that, there are two things. So this all these valuations and taking up certain specific parameters, this all will work for a company who is already doing 10 CR plus revenue at least.
ऐसा कोई जरूरी नहीं है, 10 हजार का रेवेन्यू इंडिया में बहुत बड़ी बात होती है। ठीक है।
Right.
I've seen companies doing, revenue of 1 lakh rupees in a month,
Hmm.
asking for a valuation of $10 million.
No, I'm not talking about the valuation ask. So I'm coming from a point of view whereby we have to do valuations or projections. See, doing projections and you know the financials, proposed financials, provisional financials. This is very, very common for MSME segment. And MSME segment में most of the most of the people in MSME segment, they would go for bank loans. They are not thinking about investments. They would go for bank loans, and especially for OD.
Hmm.
Okay, if they are not buying a particular asset, it is going to be for OD. If there is a particular asset, term loans are there, and that's you don't need any projections or provisionals for that. Most of the cases you will be having projections and provisionals, and that is going to happen for MSME segment. That is what works the best also. Okay, so
Right.
in those particular cases, how do you define that, okay, this is going to be the revenue? You do not know the industry well. You're not the industry expert.
Hmm.
Like the owners would be coming up to you and saying, boss, we are not able to perform, or our revenue is not growing, or our revenue will grow, our cost will become half if we buy this particular asset, or if we get some funding, we will be able to sustain.
Hmm. तो उस केस में क्या
So,
दो आपके पास जो
and
options
banks के पास में the thing is that banks have started that if there is more than 5% का deviation, your OD will get stopped.
हाँ
That
तो
rule is there.
हाँ तो उसमें क्या होता है कि आपको उसमें थोड़ा सा मेरे को लगता है कि इंडस्ट्री रिसर्च करना चाहिए। सो
Hmm.
आप थोड़ा सा इंडस्ट्री रिसर्च करोगे तो यू विल अंडरस्टैंड कि उस इंडस्ट्री में क्या ट्रेंड है और किस हिसाब से ग्रो कर रहा है। नेक्स्ट इज कि जो प्रोजेक्शन आपको दिए जा रहे हैं इवन फॉर
Hmm.
ओडी और लोन, उसमें आपको एजम्पशंस
Hmm.
देखना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। बिकॉज एजम्पशंस
Hmm.
आर द बेसिस ऑफ एनी प्रोजेक्शन। ठीक है।
Hmm.
आप इस एजम्पशन को क्वेश्चन करो कि आप अगर बोल रहे हो कि 20% से ग्रो करेगा तो आपके पास का इसका क्या ऑब्जेक्टिव, उसका आपका क्या बैकअप है, आपने अपनी सेल्स टीम से डिस्कस किया है, आपकी प्रोडक्शन टीम से डिस्कस किया है, आपका प्रोडक्ट ग्रोथ कुछ है, आपका कुछ मार्केट में नया प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च होने वाला है। करेक्ट। सो यू शुड स्टार्ट आस्किंग दिस टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन विच विल वैलिडेट दोज एजम्पशंस। ठीक है। उसके बाद सपोज इफ़ यूर हायरिंग अ वेरी गुड सेल्स पर्सन जिसका मार्केट बहुत नाम है, एंड उसके
Hmm.
बेसिस पे दे आर मेकिंग सम प्रोजेक्शन कि हाँ मेरा एक साल बिजनेस 50% 60% ग्रो कर जाएगा बिकॉज मैं इस बंदे को हायर करूंगा। करेक्ट।
Hmm.
अगेन दैट इज अ वेरी वैलिड क्वेश्चन बिकॉज यू आर हायरिंग अ वेरी क्वालिटी रिसोर्स हु विल हेल्प यू ग्रो द बिजनेस।
But
सो
I've seen practically it does not work at times.
हाँ एट टाइम्स देखिए,
Even if
हाँ एट टाइम्स हो सकता है
मतलब मैंने काफी सारे केसेस में देखा है जहाँ पे इट इज अ क्लोजली हेल्ड, मतलब जो ओनरशिप है, ओनरशिप इज विद इन अ फैमिली हेल्ड ओनरशिप है, And they thought that if they get someone from Nykaa, if they get someone from very premium brand ka person, it will work. But ultimately, they will hire these kind of people for their marketings, for their sales division. But so because of the difference in the type of work, the type of culture, these guys who are like very well qualified, having a good experience, they are not able to work in small segment, family controlled segments. Now, this is very, very qualitative aspect, and it's extremely difficult to
Exactly.
make your assumption on this.
देखिए जब कोई एस्टैब्लिश पे आप तो
And
establish
MSME
कर
segment
सकते
में
हो।
most of the time यही होता है that we just like we do it in a reverse manner. तुमको funding कितना चाहिए उसके हिसाब से projection बना देते हैं.
देखिए अब दो चीजें होती है, एक तो होती है कि आप थ्योरेटिकली क्या बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, एक
Hmm.
होता है प्रैक्टिकली क्या होता है। ठीक।
Right.
तो आप जो बोल रहे हो ना कि प्रैक्टिकली वही होता है, ठीक है।
Correct.
आज हमें जितना पैसा चाहिए उसके सिर्फ प्रोजेक्शन बना देते हैं,
Exactly.
ठीक है, और ये हम लोग भी करते हैं और करना पड़ता
और
है।
वहां पे डॉक्यूमेंटेशन क्या ले हम? इन इंडस्ट्रीज के पास में डॉक्यूमेंटेशन देने के लिए कुछ भी नहीं होता, इनके पास में खाली बातें
वहाँ पे
होती हैं.
वहाँ पे बैंक वाला डिसाइड कर लेता है अपने आप कि भाई वो कितना हमको करना है, तो खाली आपके ऊपर नहीं है, खाली आप लोग का,
हम्म.
मेरे को लगता है कि आप लोग के, हम लोग सीएस के ऊपर जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आती है वो आती है अटेस्टेशन की, कि जो पास्ट जो भी इनका फाइनेंशियल है, जो नंबर्स है वो करेक्ट है, ठीक है। और वैसे
ओके.
भी क्या है कि बैंक्स को भी आप कुछ भी एजम्पशन दे दोगे तो वो आपको उतना लोन दे देगा। आज के दिन वो सिस्टम भी देखिए कम हो गया है। हम लोग
हम्म.
बहुत सारे, आई पर्सनली वर्क विद मोर देन 20-25 बैंक्स,
हम्म.
इंडिया में भी और सिंगापुर में भी और दुबई में भी, ठीक है।
ओके.
तो बैंक्स वाले भी आजकल बोलते हैं कि आप उठपटांग हम लोग उल्टे पुल्टे प्रोजेक्शन बना के मत देना, ठीक है।
ओके.
प्रोजेक्शन दो, मेक मेंशन द assumptions प्रॉपर्ली, गिव प्रॉपर कैलकुलेशंस, ठीक है, बैकग्राउंड वगैरह एंड ऑल। तो
हम्म.
कहीं ना कहीं आज हम कितना भी कर ले, हमको कोई, हम सारी इंडस्ट्री की तो ऑल दी,
So in such cases, what is the precautions which the CA has to take, and what is the risk that we are exposing ourselves to?
राइट, करेक्ट। तो इट इज ऑलवेज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि what kind of assumptions they are mentioning and how we are perceiving it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Like how do you do that? I would need a
By
little bit
asking
of
questions,
clarity on that.
by asking questions to the promoters and the people you're working with is very important.
Okay.
आप assumptions का question करके ही अपना professional judgment लगा सकते हो, और कोई
Okay.
तरीका, और कोई तरीका
So
नहीं।
so do you suggest getting an MRL on all the assumptions?
Not MRL, try to understand कि what is the basis of these assumptions। आज समझ लो if a person is saying, say a promoter is saying, say a promoter is into a retail business, ठीक है,
Hmm.
and they have 10 retail shops.
Hmm.
Now he says कि next year the number of retail shops will be say 15,
Hmm.
and on the basis of this revenue will be derived।
Hmm.
तो आज अगर वो बोल रहा है कि 5 और रिटेल स्टोर खोलूंगा, उसके लिए हमको पैसे चाहिए, तो
Hmm.
यू शुड हैव क्वेश्चन कि भाई आप लोग कहाँ कहाँ पर खोलोगे, कौन कौन सी
Hmm.
लोकेलिटी में खोलोगे, उसी से
Hmm.
लोकेलिटी का आपने कोई रिसर्च किया है क्या, वहाँ पे
Hmm.
कितने एम्प्लॉय हायर होंगे, उस एम्प्लॉय का आप लोग एक एचआर शेड्यूल से चेक कर सकते हो कि हाँ इतना प्लानिंग है मेरा एचआर का, करेक्ट।
Hmm.
सो इन दिस वे यू कैन फ्रेम योर प्रोफेशनल जजमेंट एंड मेंशन दोस इन द रिपोर्ट्स।
I
Okay.
have a one point is that can peer groups be into similar company in the same business? What methodology in past they historically they followed that? It gives some idea to in our assumptions, so that like what they are delivered in last 1 or 2 years. It give an insight to how to look out in assumptions, question that assumptions. This one suggestion.
That can also be done. But what I personally follow, I question the assumptions very, rigorously, and then I frame an opinion ki whether the projection being mentioned or the, forecast they are mentioning is could be, achievable or not. See, actually achieve hoga ki nahi hoga, that is a future outlook, right? That has nothing to do with current valuation or current,
And
what
if
do
it deviates by 5%, more than 5%, 6, 7, 8, 10%,
you,
then is it that it's the headache of the bank and the owner to
the
decide?
head of the bank and the owner, na. If
Okay.
owner know, if your owner is aware that even if I deviate by more than 5%, then my facility will be
Hmm.
withdrawn.
Hmm.
Then owner has to be very careful in giving the projections.
Okay. Apart from that, one more thing I wanted to ask that for a lot of industries, we have global reports, like Economic Forum would be issuing some reports.
Mm.
Like for major industries, we'll be able to get such reports from the Economic Forum database.
Right.
But do we have such reports for unorganized sector also? Or like, are there any reports specific to Indian demographics which we can rely on?
See, you can refer, I don't know if you use Traction. So Traction is a
Hmm.
platform which has
Traction
all
gives forecast also. They give the company details, but are they giving
the company
forecast
details,
also?
they give industry details as well. To for some industries they do give. And
Hmm.
there is one portal which I'm not able to remember. I'll post it on the group, right, by
Hmm.
looking at my database. Jo,
For Traction, they will give the competitors, they will give the revenue for the organization specific based
hmm,
on the like based on the company filings. They will be able to give a few details based on investment rounds. They will be able to give a few details,
hmm.
but they won't be having, like, I've not seen them giving some industry specific data.
I think they do give, not a lot.
Okay.
They do give something. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that.
Okay. All right.
Right. Anything else on this?
No, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So, uh, after understanding and having a very good discussion on the valuation methodologies, the next subtopic which we have is factors affecting the valuation or the red flags, right? So whenever you're valuing a company, or when we are discussing with any founder or the team of the startup, there's certain red flags which we should be considering. One is the inconsistent financials, right? That sudden revenue spikes or misalignment between cash flow and revenue. So that gives a very bad, what you say, impression of the financials or the company, that the financials are inconsistent and there's something might be wrong with the company, right? Then vague use of funds, right? You know Whenever someone is investing, they would obviously want to know and rather have a clarity on how the capital will be used. Then is the customer revenue consideration. As for example, say 50 to 60% of revenue is coming from only one or two customers. Again, it's a high risk, right? That means you're not scaling to multiple customers. And if those customers back out, then your revenue will be very low. And then there are compliance issues or leadership attrition. You've not filed your taxes, you have IP disputes, you don't have a clear ESOP plans, or you have vendors who are not being paid. Your leadership team is switching here and then, here and again, right? As for example, recently what happened, you must be seeing it in the news that a lot of leadership people from the Zepto left just within a span of few months, right? So that is not good for the company, right? So those basically investors, those things of those as red flags. Next is how, as a startup founder, you can improve your valuation story, right? The first is early metrics disciplines, that you should start tracking your CAC, your LTV, your margins even before raising. So even before you're going to investors, you should have all those data ready कि आपको आपके बिजनेस में आपका कस्टमर एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट क्या है, आप कितना रेवेन्यू आ रहा है करेंटली, आपका मार्जिन्स क्या है, हाउ द मार्जिन्स विल कंटिन्यू टू ग्रो. देन माइलस्टोन बेस्ड प्लानिंग, कि आज आपका फंडिंग का रोड मैप क्या है, दैट इफ यू आर गेटिंग फंडेड, देन हाउ दोज फंड्स विल बी यूटिलाइज्ड. देन मे बी इफ़ यू हैव सम थर्ड पार्टी वैलिडेशंस, कि आपके कस्टमर्स ने आपको क्या रिव्यू किया हुआ है, वेदर यू हैव स्टार्टेड कलेक्टिंग कस्टमर फीडबैक्स, आपने 100 कस्टमर्स को डील किया है बिफोर रेजिंग द फर्स्ट राउंड. तो उस 100 कस्टमर्स का आपने फीडबैक लिया है कि नहीं लिया है, एंड वेदर दो फीडबैक कंस्ट्रक्टिव फीडबैक हैज बीन इनकॉर्पोरेट इन योर प्रोडक्ट. So that is very important. देन कैप टेबल हाइजीन, आपने ओवर डायल्यूट तो नहीं कर दिया, आपने 15 लाख रुपए उठाए बट उसके अगेंस्ट मैंने 50-55% ही डायल्यूट कर दी अर्ली में, करेक्ट? तो आपकी इक्विटी डेड हो गई ना उधर, तो जब और डायल्यूशन होगा तो आपको तो कुछ बचेगा ही नहीं. सो अगेन कैप टेबल हाइजीन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. And the next is the data room preparation, right? So keep all the MIS, your contract, major contracts, your compliances, docs ready for the due diligence. So any questions till now, or shall we move to the real life case studies.
One more thing I have to ask.
Yes, please.
So let's say if we are able to see that in the books there is a huge chunk of loan available, and the company is looking for funding.
Okay.
So, will that be a red flag, or like, do investors fund in these kind of organizations? If yes, like, what is their mindset? Because I'm not able to understand that why will someone fund just to recover the loans, like just to fund the loans?
So there are टू टाइप्स ऑफ थिंग्स। एक तो हो गया, देखो
Hmm.
अगर लोन ले रखा है ना तो उसके अगेंस्ट में या तो कोई कैपेक्स किया होगा, करेक्ट, या फिर कोई ट्रेडिंग कंपनी ने अपना कोई वर्किंग कैपिटल का लोन उठाया होगा, ठीक है। अदरवाइज सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनीज में जनरली इतना लोन रहता नहीं है।
This is not software company, this is a manufacturing entity.
मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में,
Manufacturing में ही assembling है mainly.
हाँ, तो जो भी असेंबली है जहाँ पर भी कोई प्रोडक्ट इन्वॉल्व है, टेंजिबल प्रोडक्ट, वहाँ पे लोन है, करेक्ट।
Hmm.
वो तो कोई ना कोई कैपेक्स के लिए किया होगा, या फिर स्टॉक्स को या फिर वर्किंग कैपिटल को मैनेज करने के लिए किया होगा, करेक्ट। तो उसमें इन्वेस्टर को
Hmm.
तो आपको एक्सप्लेन करना है कि व्हाई दैट लोन इज बीइंग टेकन।
એનું ફરી ગયું મમ્મી મમ્મી એના ઘર કરાવું જ શાંતિ રાખે આ બધું કરાવવું પડશે અહીંયા બધાય કચરો છે
एंड व्हेन यू टेकन अ लोन,
Okay.
योर इंटरेस्ट बेसिकली रिड्यूसेस योर एबिटा, करेक्ट।
Hmm.
बहुत बार इन्वेस्टर क्या होता है ना, इसलिए आपको जब भी कोई मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी में कुछ भी वैल्यूएशन होता है तो एबिटा लेवल पे होता है कि अगर आपकी कंपनी में लोन नहीं है, करेक्ट,
Hmm.
तो आप कितना प्रॉफिट बनाओगे, बिकॉज दैट इज योर रियल
Hmm.
प्रॉफिट। ऐसा कुछ रेड फ्लैग नहीं होता है कि अगर बहुत ज़्यादा लोन है कंपनी में तो उसको इन्वेस्टर फंड नहीं करेगा।
Okay.
तो आज को लोन लेना पड़ा।
मतलब जितना जितना लोन है इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नल लोन
हाँ,
मिलाकर के ऑलमोस्ट उतना ही फंड रेज का रिक्वेस्ट है,
हाँ, तो
उससे
उसको
थोड़ा सा
पोटेंशियल दिख रहा होगा, इन्वेस्टर को उसमें पोटेंशियल दिख रहा होगा कि अगर इसका लोन खत्म हो जाता है, इसका लोन का बर्डन हट जाता है तो मेरा मार्जिन इतना से इंप्रूव हो जाएगा। मार्जिन अगर इंप्रूव होगा तो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बढ़ेगी, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बढ़ेगी तो कैश फ्लो जनरेट ज़्यादा होगा। तो फिर
हम्म।
वो क्या होगा कि लॉन्ग टर्म में जाके इट कुड बिकम अ बिग कंपनी। तो वो सब फैक्टर्स कंसिडर कर लेता है इन्वेस्टर। तो
ओके।
वी आर वर्किंग विद सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी जिसमें हम लोग फंडिंग रेज कर रहे हैं, एंड दे हैव 20-25 करोड़ का
ओके।
लोन बुक्स एट 80 करोड़ टर्नओवर, ठीक है। तो उसमें भी हम लोग
हम्म।
30 करोड़ का कैपिटल लेके आ रहे हैं, बट हम लोग लोन को पे ऑफ नहीं करेंगे उसमें।
ओके।
We would keep the loan and we will use fresh capital to expand more into capex and all. So again, it depends
ओके।
on the utilization of the funds as well, कि uh, what are the reasons you are raising the funds, right?
हम्म।
अगर आप इन्वेस्टर हो जाके बोलो कि मेरे को
ओके।
खाली लोन खत्म करना है और इक्विटी चाहिए, तो देखो इन्वेस्टर थोड़ा सा झिझकेगा।
नहीं, वो
बोले
तो इन्वेस्टर को तो ये नहीं बोलेंगे, इन्वेस्टर को तो यही बोल रहे हैं कि हमको नया विंग,
करेक्ट,
नया वर्टिकल स्टार्ट करना है।
करेक्ट,
बट मतलब बैलेंस शीट में क्लियरली उतना ही, ऑलमोस्ट उतना, अप्रोक्सीमेटली उतने अमाउंट का लोन दिख रहा है। तो वो तो मतलब साफ साफ दिखती बात है ना कि यार ये अमाउंट जब आएगा तो उसको सबसे पहले तो लोन ही
नेवर नो,
निकालेगा बंदा।
यू नेवर नो। उसमें इन्वेस्टर भी तो देखो एमआईएस वगैरह चेक करेगा, जिसमें भी वो जो आपको एसएचए देगा, शेयर होल्डर एग्रीमेंट, करेक्ट। तो उसमें बहुत सारे कंडीशंस मेंशन
हम्म।
करेगा। ही विल मेंशन कोवेनेंट्स
हम्म।
दैट यू शुड नॉट
ओके।
यूटिलाइज दिस फंड्स फॉर रिपेमेंट ऑफ इतना या जो भी है। और अगर इन्वेस्टर को
So would you suggest that we should be evaluating what if we keep the loan and what if we do not keep the loan, and उसके according projections दे investor को?
करेक्ट, करेक्ट, जनरली देखो कोई
Okay.
बोलेगा नहीं कि वो पूरा लोन
Okay.
रिपेमेंट होगा। ही माइट से कि वी विल डू पार्शियल रिपेमेंट ऑफ द लोन, राइट। तो जनरली इट डज, आई मीन दे डज कि
हम्म।
20 करोड़ को उठाया, 12 करोड़ का लोन रिपेमेंट कर दिया, 12 करोड़ को से और थोड़ा एडिशनल एक्टिविटीज पे लगा के अपना रेवेन्यूज पे वर्क कर रहे हैं। जनरली ऐसा कभी नहीं होता
Okay.
है कि भाई जितना मेरा
But is
लोन।
it a sustainable model?
हाँ, क्यों नहीं है, उसमें क्या दिक्कत है। ये तो हर एक चीज में अगर इतने कोविनेंस
Okay.
लगाएंगे तो बिजनेस ग्रो कैसे करेगा, करेक्ट। सो इन्वेस्टर को तो कहीं वैल्यू दिख रहा है तभी वो पैसे डाल रहा है ना।
Okay. Correct. Okay.
Yeah. Sir, I have one point. Like the investor, I have one question. While putting a money, how can he get an exit from the business after at a particular period, let's say 3 years or after 5 years?
Okay.
Which I seen the promoters now always not have a positive reply on this. So in that case, what I have to look for, what take forward in that case?
See, there are two things. One is कि not all companies can go to IPO.
Yes, that's right.
Till date,
Yes.
till date in India, 1.75 lakh startups have been funded.
Yes.
उसमें से आईपीओ कितनी गई है? बेयरली अभी ये लेंस कार्ड के जाने के बाद ये 9th या 10th कंपनी है जो लास्ट 10 years के स्टार्टअप में विच हैज गॉन आईपीओ। Correct. So
Correct. Correct.
whether an
Correct.
investor can get exit, at what stage, it is more important. So there will be some investors which would have the horizon of say 3 to 4 years. There will be investors who will be more patient and have a horizon of 8 to 10 years. Right. So you need to define the category of the investors as well. So suppose कई बार क्या होता है कि आज मैंने एंजल राउंड में पैसा डाला से 20 लाख रुपए, कल कंपनी की वैल्यूशन 10 करोड़ हो गई, मेरे इन्वेस्टमेंट की वैल्यू ऑन पेपर से 1 करोड़ हो गई, तो नेक्स्ट राउंड हुआ से सीरीज ए, उसमें मैंने एग्जिट ले लिया। So there will be that type of investor. Then there will be like, I will come at Series A, I will buy out the existing investors, and then I will stay for 8 to 10 years and I will wait for the IPO to come. Correct. So it is
Correct. Correct.
important what type of investors you are dealing with. Right.
But sir, I have one point, sir. But I've seen that the investor or less than a 3 to 5 year horizon is there. But at particular time, after 5 years, what is the performance? If the performance is not good, then how he can get an exit? Whether promoter will,
Equity.
whether
So if you are investing in equity, there is no guarantee that your fund will be returned, because equity means you are participating in the shares of the company. And when you're participating in the shares of the company, then the only thing you get during at a time of liquidation after paying off all the debt is the book value. करेक्ट। सो अगर आपकी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी आपको एसेट को बेच के जो भी वाटरफॉल मैकेनिज्म के हिसाब से मिलेगा, बाकी शेयर होल्डर्स को भी आपको मिलेगा।
I mean, that's okay. But normally, but is that if the performance is good, the second round or third round you easily get it. That if the performance is not good, in
Just
that
tell
case.
me, just tell me, when suppose I'm an investor in your company, what are the methods in which you can give me an exit?
So in that case, there is a two, either can the promoter could buy back the
Correct.
investors' money. This is
Correct.
one of the option.
Correct. So
That
there are only three options. One, either the promoter will buy back the shares. Number two, he will bring another investor who will buy the investor one's car shares.
correct, correct, right,
The
right, right.
third and the third is to get an IPO.
Correct, right,
ये
right,
तीन को
right,
छोड़ के
right.
तो और कोई मतलब
नहीं, नहीं, right,
मोड ही नहीं है।
right, right, right.
Correct. So if you are
Correct.
contemplating, say I'm investor number one, and you've already found investor number two, whom you will bring in as private equity and give investor one an exit. That could be one method. And another could be key, if I achieve, say, a particular threshold of revenue, and I'm eligible for an IPO, I will do an IPO and then give you an exit. So
Right.
generally, when we are talking to investors, right, we give them this only, key either we'll bring in private equity after 3 to 5 years at a certain valuation, or we will go for an IPO say after 5 years at this particular kind of revenue.
Right.
So
Correct, correct, very right. Right.
and investor, obviously, if investor is putting money, then he cannot be sure of exit. Otherwise, startup में आजकल investments ही नहीं होती। ठीक है।
Right, right, right.
Obviously, they will ask this question, but again, they will ask this question to basically judge you whether you are in for a long-term game. They don't
Correct,
ask you
correct.
question because they want exit. They ask this question so that they understand your mindset about making wealth for the investors.
Yes, right, right, right.
Yeah.
True, sir.
Right. So with whatever we discussed, there are some real life valuation case studies which is a mixture of both quantitative and qualitative factors, and as market factors as well. I would like to discuss those cases. One is IntelliBot AI. So it was an AI based SaaS platform that raised at a 10x ARR due to high ARR growth, 12-month pipeline, and a pilot success with a unicorn client, right? So unka ARRs was say $10 million, and they raised at $100 million valuation, right? Because they were able to show next 12 months ka active contracts, and they acquired some one major unicorn client which is which will be giving them multi-year revenues. Then we have Learn Loop, it's an edtech company. I mean, they had 1 lakh users, but they still received a down round because the founders didn't had clarity how to monetize those data, and their high churn rate, right? So people are coming, people are going more, right? So the uh, uh, deactivation were more than activations, right? So that's how they received a down round. Then we have Shipax, which was into B2B logistics. It was a pre-revenue, but raised 6 million, but raised as a $6 million valuation based on exclusive long-term contract signed with 3 national brands, right? So they were able to show the investor that, they have long-term contract which is going to give revenue much more than they are anticipating. Then we have MindNest. It's a health tech which was a startup into the mental wellness space, received a higher than expected valuation offer after the Calm and Headspace merger triggered investor optimism across the sector. So there was an event which happened in this particular sector because of which, mindset ने बोलते हैं ना बहती गंगा में हाथ धोने वाला हिसाब वो हो गया था. Then we have Bella Naturals. It's a D2C beauty brand which showed a steady CAC decline over 6 months and a break even on the ad spend, which led to a valuation markup during its pre-series A. So these 5 examples are, classic examples of how qualitative, quantitative, market-based, all those factors impact the valuation at different stages. Key insights, I think you guys are better person to say what are the key insights, but nevertheless, I would just say that valuation is influenced by a mix of team traction and total addressable opportunity. Building strong foundation, is very important because it tells a clear and data-backed growth story. And yes, you don't get the valuation you want, you get the valuation you want, you can justify, right? So it doesn't matter what numbers you're showing, it matters that what numbers you are able to justify. So uh, that's it from my side, and happy to answer any questions if you have.
Sir, is there any AI tools which can help in the valuation or for the forecasting also?
I'm not aware of any such AI tool which can help in forecasting, but yes, I use Perplexity AI, DeepSeek AI to do deep research, right? Uh, I personally use Excel models to build valuations and forecast models. So I'm not aware of any AI tools which can, help in valuation and all.
Any evaluation multiplier, like for any industry, we look at evaluation multiplier for any particular sectors and all that.
That you can get from Bloomberg. So from Bloomberg, you can have the industry data for multiple companies wherein you can, understand by doing some kind of calculation that what is valuation multiplier which is going on in the market.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Roji, can I have a contact detail and a mobile number if possible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Can put in the text possible.
I can put it here, Kalpana ji, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
That's the final.
Okay, so maybe yes, Kalpana, you would like to say something?
No, I was asking if any other participants are having any question, they can ask. Otherwise, we are good to conclude. Okay, I think we're good to conclude, Jyoti.
Okay. Thank you so much to all the participants and our speaker for an engaging and insightful session today. As we explored the key drivers in valuation for fundraising, a few powerful takeaways stood out clearly. First, the fundamentals of business valuation remain rooted in clarity of our model, our numbers, and our narrative. Second, value is ultimately created by the drivers behind the business, the strength of your market opportunity, the resilience of your revenue systems, the quality of your leadership, and the scalability you can demonstrate with conviction. Our discussion also highlighted a very practical truth. Investors are not just evaluating business, they are evaluating readiness, transparency, and execution capability. Fundraising is not merely about showcasing potential, it is about proving that you can convert the potential into performance. I hope today's session has given each of us deeper insight into how to position our business story, how to identify and strengthen the drivers that truly matter, and how to approach investors' conversations with more confidence and strategic clarity. Thank you once again to our speaker, our audience, and the entire Friday Fleet community. We look forward to seeing you next week with another powerful episode. Until then, dream big, prepare well, and keep building value. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jyoti, for such a nice conclusion. And we would like to uh, once again appreciate the effort and the time spent by our esteemed speaker today, CA Rohit Gupta, on our platform, and how beautifully the whole session was revolved around discussing the practical challenges of these area of the fundraising and the valuation. And Rohit, we will connect with you to discuss. Uh, we are having workshop on our platform. So how for this topic per se, is it doable and how we can do it? We'll surely reach out to you if your calendar permits. And surely we will have the survey on our platform to know how many of the participant will be interested to do. Once
Sure.
again, thank you so much for giving your time for our platform. And last but not the least, to our participant, to our community who is always having that spark, that hunger to learn, and they show up in every episode. And you guys are our fuel. As I was mentioning to Rohit at the start of the session, that yes, we are having a community where everyone is having the hunger to learn. Thank you so much. Wishing you all a very happy weekend. We are having great sessions lined up ahead. Looking forward to have that meaningful learning, because now is the period till the next closure till March 26 is the time we chartered accountant will be sharpening our saw, right? So let's learn, let's utilize this time. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jyoti. I think Jyoti is not here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
For such a wonderful moderation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalpana. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.